Hello and welcome back. In the previous tutorial we created our first manuscript, added a chapter and added 2 scenes and wrote some example content. That gave us the structure of our manuscript. Now it's time to start enriching it with information that exists beyond the manuscript text itself. One of the biggest differences between SceneWeaver and a traditional word processor is that the manuscript is only a single part of your project. Characters, locations, organisations, items, research notes, references and many other types of information can all become part of the same workspace. Today we're going to start by creating some simple entities and linking them to our manuscript. Before we create anything, it's worth understanding what an entity is. An entity represents something that exists within your project. It might be a character, it might be a location, it could be an organisation, a vehicle, an important object, or almost anything that needs to be tracked. Rather than repeatedly writing notes in separate documentation, SceneWeaver allows you to store information about those entities alongside your manuscript. Before we create anything, it's worth understanding what an entity is. An entity represents something that exists within your project. It could be a character, a location, an organisation, a vehicle, an important document, or almost anything that needs to be tracked. Rather than repeatedly writing notes in separate documents, SceneWeaver allows you to store information about those entities alongside your manuscript. That information can then be referenced throughout your project. So let's look at starting to create a character. We'll create our first entity. Now we can do that in 2 ways. We can select the entity menu here and select Manage Characters, or we can press the F7 key to bring up the Entities panel. The Entities panel can be changed around, so each part can move and be exactly where you want it. So I want characters at the top and locations beneath that. So I'm going to create my first character by clicking on the Add Character, and I will give her a name. So in this case, Sarah is going to have a new name, Sarah Mitchell. And then we're going to give her some keywords. Sarah, Miss Sarah Mitchell, and Miss Mitchell. We can then set her a character class. She is a person. Her primary role is currently the protagonist, and her status is active. We've got other things we can enter, like key relationships, a description of her, any notes about her, how she's described in the text, core motivations, primary conflicts, what her traits are, how her text is written using her voice. But we can also add in token variables. Variables can contain any key and any value. So you could put hairstyle and value blonde, or you could put anything at all in there, and you can reference it in the manuscript. So I'm not going to worry about any of those. I'm just going to click save, and there she is, added to the characters as an active used character. She's active because we've used the name Sarah in the document and it's picked up that as being the keyword. So we need a new one, and then we'll start again. So at the top I'm going to call this the survey, not the survey, survey team member. We don't need a name because they're only going to be mentioned once, and the keyword would be survey team member. If we ever wanted to, we could add further keywords or adapt the character more to include a particular name, particular details, but we don't need anything else. We're just going to leave it as the survey team member as the name and the keyword survey team member, and save. Now we can see that straight away has been added, but in this case it's not bold, so we know it's not used in this scene. If we close that menu and we click on the pink box there, that box highlights everywhere that the name Sarah is used, or in fact any of these keywords. So that's great. Now we're going to add a location. So again, entity, manage locations, See, that's two different routes we can use. And we're going to call this one the New Horizon Colony. So I can spell that correctly. There we go. And our keyword is just going to be colony, because we've already got the name there. We just want the keyword. So we can save that. And again, we can see straight away that the colony, I've spelled it wrong. Let's change that. Colony, and save. There we go, that's corrected that. You can see it's used straight away because it's in bold. So if we close that, we can then tick the yellow box to highlight where the colonies are used. And there they are. However, in our case, we're going to link them to be part of these. Instead of just being text in the document, we can, if let's say, for example, I change that from Sarah to spelling Sarah differently, immediately we don't know. It's just a name. What we want it to be is a token referencing the character. So let's get that linked first. What I would do is we'll start with the colony, double click the colony to select the whole word, right click on the New Horizon colony and then to select the colony. You see that now becomes a keyword 1 link from colony. Do the same with Sarah. We only want her name there, so Sarah. And we also want her name there. And the colony is mentioned again there. In fact, it's the New Horizon colony, not just the word colony. But because New Horizon colony on its own isn't a keyword, it didn't pick it up fully. However, we can fix that by inserting that. So it's now colony name. So the difference between the colony there is that's the name of the colony, that's the keyword referencing for the colony. Now, they're all only tokens at the moment. You can see how down here it says show tokens. If we press F9, it no longer shows the tokens, it shows the text from the entity. So we know that these have been picked up correctly because they're all showing right. Let's move on to our second scene and we'll do the same again. So Sarah, colony, colony, and Sarah. Now this time you'll notice it put the name straight in there because we already had show text instead of show tokens. We can use that to untick it, but it's far quicker just to press F9. So now the manuscript and the project information begin working together. Instead of searching through hundreds of pages trying to remember where a character appeared, SceneWeaver understands those relationships directly. Why that matters? At first it may seem like additional work. However, imagine a novel containing 200 scenes, maybe 50 plus characters, hundreds of locations, lots of organisations, and hundreds of pages of research that you've done. Trying to manage that information using separate documents quickly becomes difficult. SceneWeaver keeps those relationships together inside the single project. That means less time searching for information and more time writing. As your manuscript develops, you'll naturally create more entities. Some projects may only contain a handful, others may contain hundreds. The important thing is that they remain organised and connected to your manuscript. This approach scales naturally as projects become larger. So what have we accomplished? In this video, we've created a character, created a location, added information to each, and linked those entities to our manuscript, and seen how SceneWeaver helps organise information beyond the manuscript itself. Thank you for watching. In the next video, we'll continue expanding our project by exploring more of the tools that help organise complex writing projects. If you'd like to follow along, you'll find the latest version of SceneWeaver linked in the video description. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.